Besides Lilo and Stitch, Disney has had an awful year at the box office. Well, actually, every studio has, but specifically Disney. And given the amount of content that they put out there, like everything, okay, not even factoring in the slop that they pumped out on D+, has absolutely bombed off the face of the earth. Most recently, Tron Ares, and I'd imagine this weekend is probably pretty dire as well. But kicking off the year with, well, actually, Captain Black Falcon America Man being a flop, and then, of course, following that up with the abysmal Snow White, you would think, right, that changes would be afoot. And in the aftermath of Snow White failing, there was some speculation that Disney's, at least their live action department, would stop and assess the situation and realize that, yeah, you know what, perhaps we should do something about this whole quality issue that we have right here. Perhaps there's something we need to do about regurgitating old content with a lot less charm, a lot less quality, and we should do something unique. And if we're going to do these live action remakes, they had best be faithful and they had best have something new to offer. But, oh, sweet summer child, always had to know that wasn't going to be the case. But yes, in 2025, the Walt Disney Company is enduring what might go down as the darkest theatrical year in memory, accumulating a cascade of box office disappointments that arguably outstrips any distributor in a single calendar year. Yeah, I can't think of anything that even comes close. Because yeah, some of these losses are going to be offset by Avatar at the end of the year, but depending on how that all shakes out, they won't be able to reap those benefits until next year. And then you've got Doomsday on the top of that. So yeah, that's also going to be, at least the first one's going to be, talking Avengers movies here, that's going to be a $1 billion hit. But also, like as we recently learned earlier this week, that yeah, Rise of Skywalker, $1 billion film, the last Star Wars film out there, cost upwards of $600 million. And you take a look at everything going into Doomsday, and if you think a film that came out 6 years ago is somehow going to end up costing more than something so extravagant as Doomsday, got a Jared Leto light cycle to sell you that I'm sure is only going to go up in valuation. But yes, a string of headline projects: Captain Black Falcon America Man, Snow White, Thunderbolts, Elio, Fantastic Four, Freakier Friday, and the underwhelming debut of Tron Ares. Outside of Lilo and Stitch live action, like there is nothing for them to hang their hat on. Zootopia might be big, and like I said before, Avatar, but outside of that, man, what a disaster. 2025, yeah, the darkest year on record for Disney, beating their previous record of 2023, and that's a year that had flops like Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, actually a film that performed worse with the Dial of Dysentery, Ant-Man and the Wasp, The Marvels. But a lot of that ended up getting offset. A lot of those losses got offset by Moana 2 coming out and crushing it at the box office. And then last year, they had the two highest performing films of the year with Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine. But this time around, oh no, there's no lifeline out there. So yeah, you would think, as a studio, if you're out there losing that much money or losing your ass on so many different projects, you would stop and realize that, yeah, there are certain things that aren't working. And at the time, if you remember going back to Snow White here real quick, in the aftermath of that failure, there was rumor that, a pause was put on. A pause was put on for another upcoming live action remake because the critical and commercial reception to the two most recent live action remakes, in the nicest way I can put it, weren't exactly living up to expectations. But here we are, 6 months later, and instead of them apparently learning their lesson, no, they realized that the slop must flow, and instead of doing something new and unique, they can just continue to trot out the same old shit over and over again, as a new Lion King movie is reportedly in development at Disney. So yeah, even though nobody had glowing appraisal for Mufasa, it still ended up making, $800 million at the box office, half of what Lion King 2019 ended up making. But are they going to be doing Mufasa 2, just getting even closer to the events of Lion King, or are they going to do a live-action adaptation of The Lion King 2 because they're that creatively bankrupt? But one live-action remake that was apparently canceled, or at least put on an indefinite hiatus, was a Tangled live-action remake. Yeah, a film that's not even that old, but then again, Moana's not even that old. But taking the Rapunzel story and making it live-action, gee, nobody has ever tried that before. But shelving that until they can figure out exactly what they're doing with their live-action remakes, well, that kind of makes sense. And you would think it would take a little bit longer for them to figure out what they're doing, more than 6 months. But apparently, yeah, the Tangled live-action movie revived at Disney with Scarlett Johansson. Oh, okay, apparently she's repaired her relationship with Disney, or at least Disney proper, not so much Marvel, circling a major role. Great. Probably because they seen that, hey guys, she did such big money with the dinosaur movie. It was definitely because of Johansson, the highest grossing actor of all time. Fucking lol. And it had nothing to do with, the dinosaur movie having the dinosaurs. So perhaps she can bring all of that unbridled charisma to the Tangled live action movie. Jesus Christ. Disney is proceeding with the live action Tangled after putting the project indefinitely on pause earlier this year. Casting hasn't been solidified, but Scarlett Johansson could be eyed to star as Mother Gothel. Interesting how she's now transitioning to her more matronly roles. And to be fair, her to be, a conniving, plotting bitch, I could see it. Disney halted the production in April following the commercial failure of March's Snow White film adaptation. But in the following months, the studio's Lilo and Stitch remake, struck a major chord at the box office to the tune of $1 billion. The key difference between Snow White and Lilo and Stitch, well, not much creatively. It's just Snow White didn't have cute, cuddly creatures. They had demonic-looking CGI dwarfs. But yeah, they ended up learning all of the wrong lessons. It's not improve the quality of your remakes, okay? It was just simply the cultural relevance or lack thereof, according to insiders. The original Snow White was released in 1937, the movie that made the studio, and is no longer the rage with kids these days. Meanwhile, yes, Lilo and Stitch, but Stitch particular, is a merchandising treasure trove that Disney is more than willing to mine into oblivion. Because how long did it take? It took us longer to put the Tangled live-action reboot back on the tracks than it was to greenlight Lilo and Stitch 2. Christ almighty. Because, it was the top title on Disney Plus, and in 2024 alone, drove $2.6 billion in retail sales, Lilo and Stitch here. And that towering figure was before the adorable blue agent of chaos even returned to the big screen. Clearly, the studio is hoping that Tangled, which, originally came out in 2010. Okay, I thought that was about the time frame, because I remember watching that. It was pretty good. Mandy Moore as Rapunzel, Zach Levi is, what's his name, Flynn Rider? It was a good cast. It was a good story. I didn't mind it. But yes, it's Disney's take on the old Brothers Grimm story, which isn't Snow White, a take on an old Brothers Grimm story, but anyways, about a magically long-haired, Princess Rapunzel. In the adventure, she is eventually rescued from her secluded tower by the outlaw named Flynn Rider. Oh, there it is. Mandy Moore voiced the musically inclined heroine in the first film, and we don't talk about Zachary Levi because he wears a red hat, dun dun dun, which generated $592 million at the global box office. Yeah, that would have been a better result if the movie had not reportedly carried a $260 million production budget. You fucking what? However, the film, which boasts an Oscar-nominated song, When Will My Life Begin, has remained a creative source for Disney, with such spin-offs as the 2012 short-filmed Tangled Ever After and the 2017 TV series Rapunzel's Tangled Adventure. The Greatest Showman filmmaker Michael Gracie remains in talks to direct the remake for a script by Jennifer Caitlin Robinson. Oh my god, responsible for the I Know What You Did Last Summer reboot. God, with all of those low-budget horror flicks succeeding this year, nobody talked about the I Know What You Did Last Summer reboot. Holy shit, that one came and went. So yeah, Disney once again trying to mine successful IPs and skimping out on the talent. Just letting you know that Snow White failure, they didn't learn a goddamn thing from it. The only thing that they learned is, hey, we'll just grab some stuff that's a little bit newer in the queue. Nobody wants to see any of that old shit anymore. They just want the new shit that's based on the old shit with a couple of faces that they recognize. God, man, we're really not getting out of this creative nadir from Hollywood anytime soon, are we? So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.